Growth is usually treated as proof that a business is working. But growth has a way of exposing every weakness a smaller company can hide. The founder becomes the answer to every question. Follow-up starts falling through the cracks. Systems bend under the pressure. And the business that was supposed to create freedom begins demanding more and more from its owner. So what happens after the breakthrough, when success forces you to rebuild the way the business actually works? Welcome, or hopefully welcome back to The Reluctant Entrepreneur. My guest today is Bennett Maxwell, and if he looks familiar, he is. This is his second appearance on the Reluctant Entrepreneur podcast. When Bennett joined me previously, we talked about his journey building Dirty Dough, the company's rapid expansion, its highly publicized legal battle with Crumbl, and the deeper sense of purpose he found through entrepreneurship. Since that conversation, Bennett has moved beyond Dirty Dough and into a new chapter with Franchise KI, a platform designed to simplify the franchise due diligence process. Franchise KI allows prospective franchise owners to research and compare brands, review verified and sourced data, and generate a detailed due diligence dossier in about 90 seconds, a process that might otherwise require hundreds of hours to research. Through Franchise KI, Bennett is also developing and applying AI systems, including Aveda AI, to help franchise and small business operators improve follow-up, reduce administrative work, and remove repetitive tasks from the owner's plate. His focus is not on AI as a novelty or an expensive science project, but using it in practical ways that make a business more effective without making it feel impersonal or robotic. This time, we're not going to spend much time revisiting the cookie war. Instead, we're going to talk about what Bennett learned from building and scaling Dirty Dough, what began to break as the company grew, how founders unknowingly become bottlenecks, and where AI can provide real operational leverage without becoming another overhyped distraction. And it all begins right now. Stick around. Oh my gosh, you look familiar. Hi, Bennett. Good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise.
It's been a minute. Well, a lot of minutes. It's been a little over a year since you and I have spoken. And of course, like most entrepreneurs, you don't stand still. So we're going to do a little catch up here. When you previously appeared on this podcast, a little more than a year ago, you were still closely associated with Dirty Dough. I think you were handling their franchises at that point. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Bring us up to date. What's changed in your business and in your life since that conversation?
Yeah. So Dirty Dough, I exited in September of 24. And for about 6 months after that, I stayed on with the parent company, Craveworthy Brands, to sell franchises for their other brands. But at the same time, I was feeling pretty good after Dirty Dough. I'm like, we sold 400 something franchises in 2 years. The issue was I was selling the franchises and trying to open them up at the same time. Like, we started with one store and ended up with over 100 open stores in literally 2 years, too fast of growth. So then the experience was, if I had my pick and I have a good track record and I could go pick really good brands, can I just represent, objectively speaking, really good brands? So one of the Dirty Dough franchisees owned a business called Glow Tanning. They were at 100 units. We're just about to hit 100 units, 15 years in business, really good, and really good franchise, but they'd never started expanding. So I started selling with him, doing ads, marketing, leads, video content, franchisee testimonials, everything to get a prospect all the way to sign a contract. And in that first year, so 2025, last year, sold 123 units. So doubled their business. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. Like, rather than trying to build and sell at the same time, go find something that's already built and then try to do the sales and the marketing piece. So I did that in 2025. And that's where I hyper focused. I didn't like selling the Craveworthy brands. Again, it's like, I wanted to sell objectively. I was just like, here's what the return is in 15 years in business. If you have the option to sell multiple products, do you want to sell something brand new, unproven, or something that is very proven? So that's the route that I took. And I left Craveworthy to focus on the current business. And then in about February of this year, I heard that there's a OpenClaw, an AI agentic system that can do that you could train it to anything a computer can do. Anything a human can do on a computer. And I'm like both the thinking and the processes and the tools and the permissions, as long as you set up. And I'm like, man, that's a big claim. Like if that's true, everything is changed forever. So
Yeah.
I've spent hundreds of hours understanding AI engineers and implementing them with the thought process of like the first easy thing, or not easy thing, but the first thing we did was ads. We're paying a company $5,000 a month to manage all the ads and the funnels or whatever. And I'm like, I could connect my AI, my Claude code directly to my ad account and I think do a better job. So it took a little bit of time, a little bit of research, but within a week or so, I replaced that $5,000 a month bill, and I was getting better results because it was being tracked literally every single day and self-auditing. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Now that I've automated that through AI, I can sell that to someone else, right? Because what you're automating is just a set of instructions and tools. And then I started kind of following that process. So it's like, okay, I built a Meta ads marketing agent, and now I can sell that. And then I have like another agent that does all my appointment setting, that'll call people, that'll text them back, that will do all that XYZ to get people on the phone, verified, ensure that they're prepped, they've watched the videos, that they have 100K liquid or whatever. Now that's all done by AI, and I can now sell that to another business. So that's kind of been the progression now. Like I'm still focusing and selling franchises, but it's more, if I can sell the franchise, if I could turn the sales process into an AI agent, then I could replicate that, and I could go sell it to all franchisors, because all franchisors want more franchisees. I've proven that I could do it, but there's only one of me, and now that's kind of my leverage. So yeah, a good 5 months and 500 hours into AI engineering.
I love stories like that where you create or modify or perfect a technology to help you in your main job, and then you realize that tech, that advancement is a monetizable product on its own, right? And that sounds like that's exactly what happened. You built it for yourself, worked out all the bugs so that you liked it as an expert on franchises, and then you're like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not the only franchise guy in the world. They could use this too. So that's quite unique. The whole AI thing amazes me. Not just the tech, obviously the tech, but the fact that AI is the whether it's Claude or Audacity, OpenAI, whatever, Meta, whatever who the main players are. Access to that technology is relatively inexpensive. It's a rounding error, right? It's couch change in comparison to what businesses do in revenue. Yet, and it's available to everyone. It's totally democratized, right? It's available to pretty much everyone around the world. We all have access to that supercomputer. It's the instructions we give it, the workflows we give it, the prompts we give it that make it unique and monetizable, right? Without having, imagine before AI, if you wanted to build this yourself, you would need a really, really, really big computer, quad type, or what's the word I'm looking for? A quantum type computer or something like that will cost you millions of dollars, and will still only be able to handle a few hundred customers at a time. And now we can basically lease time on these amazing machines that no one person can afford, and monetize it still. It's actually really cool. It's like getting all the cost of materials on a product for near free. And all you have to do is put it together in a unique way to make it usable. To me, that's what it's equivalent to. And I just find that a whole new frontier in entrepreneurship is
it's like
using that tech and making it useful in ways it hasn't yet been.
Yeah, it's really allowing you to take knowledge work now, again, any computer work, and turn it into a SaaS product, which is just like, okay, now I don't have cost. So when I sell that agent, like the workflow on like how to respond to a lead quickly, again, it's just a workflow that you build with experience. Like I want to contact them immediately. Within 1 second, they get a text and it says, "Hey, Mike, I saw that you applied for XYZ franchise. You're gonna get a call from this number in 60 seconds to verify a little bit of information. Let me know if now's not a good time." If you don't text back, then the bot is automatically calling you, and it has its workflow, and it says it knows what to say and what not to say, in what order, and how to pause and all of that, right? But now you're training that and then but all of those instructions, it's just a markdown file. It's just like a Google document, and that is where all the magic happens, which is so cool because it's like, wait, I'm just like sending you a folder on my computer, and that's going to now operate your entire marketing plan that you used to cost $5,000 a month, and this is going to be a better job. And then you have to pay for your tokens, but marginally, token cost has been, you can definitely get up there, but what you see is you have all the trillion-dollar companies putting all the money into the frontier models, like the Claude and their Opus products and Chat GTP. And then you have 3, maybe 4 months behind whatever the open models are today, whatever the frontier models are today. In about 3 to 4 months, you're going to have a free open source model of that with that same intelligence. Like this week, one came out, Quinn 3.8, free. So you download the entire brain on your computer, and it lives there, and you could chat with it, and all you're paying for is electricity. And it scores 80% compared to a frontier model that costs a lot. It scores like 88%. Like
almost there.
They're not that much different. It's almost there. And that model is as good as it's the free models are better than the most expensive models were just 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So I kind of see that pattern like, okay, the intelligence today is going to be free in 3 to 4 months. And that's kind of how it always is if you set it up correctly. And then you can just use the most intelligent model to talk to and plan. And then you have your cheaper or free models do all the work. And the intelligent model is just setting up the rubrics, setting up the plan, getting everybody to getting all of the sub-agents to actually do the work, and then it verifies. And then you also get better work like that. If anybody's talk to Chat GTP, like it hallucinates,
Oh, yeah.
You need to set it up in a way that it's not checking its own work, that it's spinning other sub-agents that it will do the work. And then you never want it to grade and to do the work. You want to separate those. And then there's little like tips like that you're like, okay, cool. Now I get way, way better output from this.
Yeah. I discovered that, quite some time ago when I first started using Chat GPT in that case, that without putting guardrails on it, and you can put guardrails on it. I use it a lot to research my guests, and I do another podcast that's a deeply technical podcast on the subject of electronics reliability, and I interview subject matter experts, PhDs, scientists of all sorts that are subject matter experts on subjects I am nowhere close to being an expert on. Yet I still have to interview them. So on my background requests, I used to get information that surprised me, like, I didn't read that on his bio, and then I would ask it to, cite some, give me some citations, and it goes, oh, well, no, I assumed that everyone that does this also does that, so I kind of threw that in there, and I'm like, okay, stop doing that. Yeah. So now I've got my sessions with, the pro version of ChatGPT set up where all my responses are littered with, linkable citations, and it will warn me if I ask it. Can I say that, for example, I asked it, does Bennett own Aveda, or is he just using Aveda? And it took about 10 minutes to search. It searched every public record possible, and it came back and it said, it seems like he's connected to it, but I can't find any verifiable sources, so do not publicly state.
Yes.
I can't go that far, but there's anecdotal evidence that there's definitely a connection there, but don't say he owns it, or he's an investor, or he's an employee or consultant or whatever. So I will ask you that since we're on that subject. When I looked at the Franchise KI website and then the Aveda website, I noticed they were remarkably similar in style, like they were designed by the same person.
Yeah, by the same AI.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, which doesn't mean the same person. It could just mean that's the model, right? The way the model likes to do it. Are you linked to Aveda or okay?
So Aveda is I don't have the trademark to sell the AI. I'm still kind of figuring that out. On the franchise side, I do have that trademark. So I'm still operating everything under the franchise business. And then Aveda is like our agentic solution. So I don't know. I'm still figuring out kind of how I want to do like the legal and if it needs to be an LLC.
So it's a work in process at the moment.
But right now it's just the branding of my AI agents.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
we'll see how it goes. The plan is to still stick in franchising, because that's what I know. And then just again, it's like, here's how I've sold 100 franchises last year. You could have the exact same format.
sure.
And now it's a fraction of the cost because you don't need a human doing everything. 90% of it is done without the human.
Yeah, they're basically, renting Bennett in virtual
Yeah.
form, and his mindset and his workflows and things like that.
I had an interview actually last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, because again, the idea is, well, I've already built this system. I know people want to hire people to sell franchises. They would love somebody with my experience that has sold 500 or 600 franchises. But I can only do that for one person, whatever. I gave the prompt to Claude, the AI that I typically use, and it's, okay, go look online for all of the jobs that I'm most likely to be acceptable to based on my experience. It built a resume, because I've never built a resume because I've never applied for a job. It built me a resume and then customized it to all of the actual job applications. And then it sent them. So it'd be like something like, hey, Mike, I saw that you guys are hiring for this position. Bennett has sold, and it introduces itself as my AI agent. And it's like, Bennett has sold 500 something franchises in the last 5 years, and has built this system to do XYZ. And then it starts quoting what their job description says. And it says, you're specifically looking for quotations, this. This is exactly how we could deliver. And because it's primarily delivered through AI, it'll be fraction of the cost. So it's like, you're getting the intelligence of Bennett and the experience, but it's at a fraction of the cost because it's going to be executed. So I started doing that. I'm like, okay, go apply to 20 jobs a day for me. And I already had the first interview, and it was, a really good company that was looking to hire somebody. They're spending $40K a month on marketing. Like, that's a perfect client for me, And that was something that the AI just had the thought. The AI found everybody, did the outreach, scheduled it. In this entire time, I never checked my email once. I never had to email them back. I never had to confirm it or anything, because I've really tried to set up everything in a way that 98% of my work is just done inside of AI. So like for you, it's just, it wouldn't be ChatGPT, it would be Codex, which is kind of their version that gives you more access to your computer. But you're just talking to like a Codex terminal. So if I need something looked up for me and go high level, my CRM or a customer texted, I'm telling Codex to do it for me. If I need an email responded to, Codex is doing it. If an employee needs a Slack message responded or a Google Drive updated or whatever, as long, in my mind, if I could force Codex to do everything, then Codex is learning everything. And then again, you could continue to replicate that.
Yeah. During our first conversation, you talked about trying to build corporate stores and production capabilities and warehousing and logistics and all the other parts of the business all at the same time, right? You were spinning pretty fast.
Yeah.
Looking back, what were you trying to control, and what should you have outsourced sooner?
Hard question. So I was trying to control the quality. I mean, I was trying to control everything.
Yeah, of course. That's what we do.
I want to make sure that the cookies get there on time. And if they're too expensive, like we could just eat the cost for a little bit on delivery, which we did a ton, and raise a little bit more money, because you're finding this balance of, I want to create a very unique product, which was, and that, it was a 3-layer cookie that had to have a specialized machine that cost $100,000. So it's like, you can't do one of those per location. But if you do a centralized location with volume, then all the prices come down. But if you do a centralized location with one store, you're just stuck with an extra $40,000 a month warehouse payment to produce cookies for one store or whatever. So that was hard. We actually initially went into a warehouse that was like 8,000 square feet, paying like $10,000 a month. And we're like, this will get us to like 30 to 40 stores. By the time that warehouse was done being built, we had sold 60 stores. So we're like,
it's already too small.
It's already too small. Let's start, and then let's start producing cookies, but kind of go to the next one. We went to the next one, which was like 40,000 square feet. It was a lot bigger. That could handle a lot more, but we only had 30 stores open, And
now
even after a year or 2 years, 100 stores open, you're like, man, I still need 200 or 300 stores for this thing to really be cost effective. And then when it gets to 400 or 500 stores. So I think looking back, I would have made it simpler at the beginning, trying to find a co-packer that could still give me that specialized cookie without me thinking I had to buy everything. Because I'm like, I have to control it because it's unique. But you can hire people to make you a unique product just for you that they won't sell to anybody else without having to buy all of the equipment and the R&D and all of that. So that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
And I would have outsourced it till we were at like 100 stores open. Then I would have started in-housing it, and where we did the opposite. I started in-housing it, and then at 100 stores, we're like, this is too much. Let's take this off our plate so we could just focus on everything else that we need to do, and then we might come back to this if we come back to this.
Isn't hindsight great?
Yeah, right.
We make great decisions in hindsight. What tends to break first when a franchise system grows faster than the systems that are supporting it?
Man, what breaks first? I would say like the important thing that you don't want to break, that can definitely break first, is trust, like with the franchisee. Because you're talking, everything's going to break in a business anyway, but it's, if you're going too fast that you can't adequately listen and respond to the franchisees, I think that's the biggest, like almost irreversible mistake, right? Because once you break trust, that's a lot harder to gain back, where you're going to have struggles in business. And if you grow too fast, there's always benefits of growing faster as well, because you get more marketing dollars, more brand awareness, all that. But yeah, the downsides can definitely outweigh those.
Yeah. A lot of these questions, as you can see, are on the subject of scale and things breaking. And that will get us in a little bit to systems like the ones you're doing that can help prevent that, because you can't grow yourself beyond a certain point, right?
Yeah.
There's only one Bennett Maxwell. And so that's kind of the reason for these types of questions. Founders often believe their consistent involvement is evidence of commitment, right? I'm involved in everything, therefore I'm committed, I'm dedicated, I'm a great owner. How can an owner recognize that their involvement has become the bottleneck rather than the advantage?
Yeah, really good question. Because that's a hard one. That nobody's. I'm not the bottleneck, but
right.
For sure,
not us.
For sure, you are.
It's all the people I'm hiring. Yeah, it's my vendors.
Again, we're on systems. Is your business set up that if you go out of town for a week or two, is your business survive? Like, that's weird, because you have all this pride on like, no, I'm going to work the 80 hours weeks and I know everything and I look at every email and I respond to every customer, everything. And you're like, cool, that's amazing up till here. But if you ever want to provide similar service up to infinite, right, you're going to have to scale that and unplug yourself. So I guess just seeing that, like, as soon as you put on that pride badge of it's all me, there's your limitation. And why do you have that limitation? So kind of recognizing that, and then take a vacation for 2 weeks, but like a real one, that you don't answer your phone, and try to set up or a day or a week, whatever. But to me, I think that's a culture change or a mindset shift that we should be after more of, like, how do I own the business and get what I want out of it, rather than own the business and just show that I'm working hard. So hopefully people value me and I value myself just because of work.
Well, you talk about taking a vacation and actually disconnecting yourself from the business, for a while. That kind of leads me into this next question. You've spoken about protecting a 20 to 30 hour work week and keeping Fridays free.
Yeah.
That, when I started the business, there was no such thing as a day of the week. Every day was the same. It was Groundhog Day, Monday through Sunday, and then Monday again through Sunday, and Monday through Sunday, and there was no 9 to 5. It was more like 9 to 5, but the next day, right? And I had lots of days like that in the beginning. Is that primarily a lifestyle decision, or is it also a test of whether you've built a company that can operate without consistently depending on you?
Maybe neither. I think it was a mental decision of like, I need sanity in my life, and I need to figure out why I have so many problems. So like it was April of 24 maybe that I was just fed up with everything. Or yeah, I was about to sell the company. Like, we were under contract. We had all these stores opening, but just everything was wrong. We didn't have any money. I was still trying to raise money just to get the sell. Everything was just terrible. And I had just gone through 2 years of as soon as I sell my first franchise, everything's gonna get better. Because once you get a 40K franchise fee, no, I need to sell 10. And then you sell 100. And then no, it's about opening 30 and then opening 50. And I just realized that I was just on this never ending cycle. So the choice to withdraw was, I'm going to force myself to find value, self-worth in something else other than work. And I'm going to do that by forcing myself to not work. Anybody who has somewhat of an entrepreneurship personality, I'm going to say it's going to be a way harder to work 20 hours a week than it is to work 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like mentally, you're just like, what the hell do I do? And why does my brain keep telling me that I should be doing something, you know?
It's screaming at you. Yeah, you're in panic mode. If I was in the early days of my business, when, before I started the business, there were really no cell phones to speak of. And then eventually there were cell phones, but they didn't work on airplanes. There was no texting or email capability on an airplane at that time. And I remember, particularly on long flights when I was flying internationally, I couldn't rest because I was incommunicado involuntarily. Yeah. And I would just, the moment those wheels touched the ground, turn my phone on, wait for it to, go to roaming and get a connection with a very expensive carrier, and then eagerly go through my emails and text just to see. And I couldn't relax if I knew that I was out of contact. And there's not much I could do from 35,000 feet anyway. I couldn't say, hey, pilot, turn around, I got to go back. That's not going to happen. So, but I remember that feeling. It is much harder to work 20 hours a week than 120 hours a week.
And then why? It's like, well, why am I working? I'm working so theoretically I don't have to work.
Right.
We'll try not working today. And the reason why you don't work less isn't because of the money or because of X, Y, Z, because you've always had more or less money in different times. It's not about that, but it's about how comfortable are you with those thoughts in your head when you aren't distracted with work. And that's what when I changed my problem to why do I have so many problems, to I just have one problem, and it's a neurochemistry problem. And if I could just focus on my brain, and I did a lot of different things on one, just taking more breaks and just forcing myself, I'm going to do way less work. And then when you're doing way less work, what do you do with the time? I spend a lot more time on my body and getting in better shape, doing yoga every single day, meditations every day, which is like, I would rather work than do a meditation. But right. 2 years fast forward, I'm like, I could control my mind now. If I get high strung, like during the workday, I could go lay on my couch, and at any time, I'm like pointing right there, I could fall asleep and wake back up well rested within 10 minutes because I could just shut off my brain like that because I've spent so much time on. That's the only thing I really need to control is my thought patterns. It's not the outside environment, because no matter what's happening in the outside environment, there's always good and there's always bad. It's just, what am I going to focus on? So it's really turned my problem into how do I change my neurochemistry so I get to control my focus rather than I'm going to focus on whatever's around me. And if that's good, great. And if it's bad, I don't feel like I can escape it. And that's what I like. It was like a desperation. Like, I can't escape all of these issues. So it got so bad, I'm just like, stop. But it was more of like that mental sanity decision, not like, I need to prove that my business. It was like, I need to figure out my brain. And it was a really good decision. That's for sure the best decision I've made in my life, is trying to not try to change the entire world outside of me and just say, I only have to change one thing, and it's perception. It's just my perception on any given subject.
It's funny. It's kind of ironic. We think if we spend 1,000 hours on a project, it's going to be a good project. It's going to be great because it took me 1,000 hours to build this project. Yeah. This is going to be awesome. And now the technology, let's use AI as a great, not so much a metaphor, but a great example. AI can do in a few seconds what you and I might take 1,000 hours to do. And it will actually, potentially anyway, be better than that. So the time we put in is really no longer, a measurement of how dedicated we are or how good it's going to be. AI itself has proven that, and in history, computers prove that, and before that, the steam engine proved that. I think we still, as founders, believe that the time investment we put in is the measurement of success or
Yeah.
the measurement of fulfillment. And it's not. It's the quality and quantity of the output that really makes a difference. And it's nothing to do with Bennett's time or Mike's time. It's how it's the end result that really matters. So if you can get, I'm assuming that if you're doing yoga every day and you're meditating and you got the couch right over there behind you or in front of you, and you take time off and restore Bennett back to 100% when he's down at 40%, the remaining time is going to be way more productive, way more accurate, way more efficient than it would be otherwise. I call that time in the zone. We've all had the experience of being in the zone where time doesn't exist. And my wife is very aware when I'm in the zone, and it typically happens when I'm doing some coding work. And I'm not a coder, by training. I'm a hack. But in the early days, our machines run on certain types of software, and I wrote the software for them. And I would do a coding session. I didn't even call it a coding session. It was just me in front of a PC, on the factory floor. And I'd start it in the morning. I'm going to go in on Monday morning, and I'm going to finish the code for this machine. And Monday morning would turn into, suddenly at 7:30 p.m. I'd get a call from my wife like, "Hey, you coming home for dinner? You okay?" "Oh yeah, sorry. Time, I can't believe it's 7:30 already. Yeah, give me an hour, I'll be home." And then around 11:30, I'm like, "Honey, good night. Are you okay? Do you want to come home and get some sleep?" "Oh, I'm almost done." And then quite literally, all of a sudden, people start showing up for work, and I'm still there. And my body clock told me it was probably noon, time for lunch, the day before, right? But
you can get lost in it,
you can get lost in the zone. But I think we can get into the zone more easily when we're in good shape, when we're hydrated, when we're rested up until that point anyway.
Yeah.
That energy kind of stores and creativity just flows. But I can't do that for 4 days, right? I would do terrible work at that point. Yeah. So it's self-maintenance, I think, is really important.
Yeah. So right now, since February, I haven't been working the 20 to 30 hours. I mean, I've still taken time off, and I'll go to, like, last week I went to California for a week and I didn't work, the whole time I was there. But I think I'm like looking back, and I was thinking about this, I think literally yesterday, I'm like, I took a year and a half or maybe a little bit more that I was just working those 20, 30 hours, which was very hard. And then when OpenAI, I look at it as like that kind of prepped me for, OpenClaw, for when OpenClaw came. My brain, like I was recovered after 2 years of just high strung. It took me a year and a half to get down. And then now I'm like, I want to do another sprint. And I talked to my wife about it as well, which, like, tomorrow I have 2 appointments. So I bet you I'm closer to 35, 40 hours a week. But I'm probably going to do this till the end of the summer and then scale it back, back to the 20, 30 hours, because I do like that. I do like that lifestyle. And I think it forces me to ask all those hard questions. And it's like, it's not about the time. It's not about this. It's about the output. And yeah, it's so easy to associate your time and your worth with just output, because most of what we're doing, I think, is we're just trying to distract ourselves. That's why people can't sit still, because it's like, what does your brain tell you if you sit somewhere and it's like, I'm bored? Well, what's wrong with being bored? And you just keep following that. And that's hard to do over and over again. You're just like, I just want to do anything but do this. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then you learn different techniques, and then you start seeing the benefits. And then now, where before I remember get like so high strung before, like maybe even a podcast, I was like, I just don't want to do this podcast because I have to do it. And then I realized I could cancel anything at any time and everybody understands. Like there's never ever in my entire life been something on my calendar that I couldn't cancel. Not at any investor meeting, not anything. Right. It was just all fabricated in my mind. So I guess seeing through that helps calm down a little bit as well. And then you're like, okay, cool. I can do this. And then again, you learn different techniques that maybe I'll give you here's my top meditation technique, if anybody's interested. Whatever uncomfortable state you're in or emotion that you're in, you're typically just trying to avoid it, right? You're like, oh crap, I don't like this.
Make it go away.
You don't like it.
Yeah.
It just goes up. And it goes more and more. Well, try the opposite. So like you're feeling something uncomfortable, and then now you're like, where is that at in my body? How do I notice that? How do I know that it's feels right here versus right there? And then you go to the next lane, you're like, okay, so it's just this, I've identified the feeling. What's wrong? Why do I not like that feeling? Like, what's wrong with that little tingle? Like, why is my brain saying I don't like the tingle right there, but it's fine. It's over here. And you're like, and you start to break it down. And when you do, you're now just seeing it as an object, and your brain disassociates. You no longer are that that emotion, I guess. So here's the beauty in this is your brain can't meditate because you get so freaking distracted. You want to focus on something, and you're trying to meditate. And the reason why meditation is so hard is because your brain gets distracted and goes somewhere else. So if you make the focus of your meditation that pain or that discomfort, it's a win-win scenario, because either you stick with it and you practice your meditation and you dissolve that pain and you really just see that it's nothing and it's just a tingle, or most likely within 10 seconds, your brain's distracted. And then you pull it back. But like either way, if you focus on it, it's either I'm going to get distracted and I'm going to fail my meditation, but by failing my meditation, I get rid of that negative emotion that I wanted to, or I achieve my meditation and I also get rid of it. So little things like that, like, I don't know, there's a million different techniques in YouTube or whatever. That's been the best one for me, because I'm just like, this is a win-win, baby. Let's do it. I don't care if I feel anything negative anymore, because it's a win-win.
Exactly. I remember once, several years ago, I went to Russia, went to Moscow on business. And I travel for a living. I travel all around the world. And I was in Moscow and I felt anxious. I don't know why, but I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel scared. But there was something in me that just kind of look over the shoulder moments, it's like, and I couldn't explain it. And I did what you did. I didn't meditate, but I put all my energy into figuring out, where's this coming from? I've never been here before. It's not like I got mugged last time I was in Moscow, and I'm like, this is odd. And I was fascinated with why I was feeling that way. And then I figured it out. I grew up in the Cold War. I was born in 1960. We had duck and cover drills in the schools. Okay, so when the Russians were going to put a nuclear bomb over our head, all we had to do was close the curtains so we don't get cut from the breaking glass, and put our bodies under the desk and cover our heads, because that will protect us from a nuclear blast. And then of course I grew up with James Bond movies, and then eventually Tom Clancy movies. And who were all the bad guys? They were Russian guys with big scars on their faces, and their Russian accents. And somehow I think that got into my brain. And now all of a sudden I'm there. I'm walking in Red Square, looking at the Kremlin, all the scenes I've seen from movies. And I didn't link that. Like, oh my God, but I think it was living in me, dormant. That, I was born and raised thinking these were the bad guys, right? And then once I know where that's coming from. It's coming from all the Bond movies and other movies and duck and cover and air raid things and all that. That's where it's coming from. And then I had a great time there, because I realized I'm no Bond. I'm not 7 or 6 or 5 or 4. I'm Mike Conrad. I'm selling machines. I'm no threat. They're not after me. KGB doesn't know even who I am. So then I had a great time. But to your point, I put all the emphasis into figuring out, where's this coming from, rather than just feeling that and not being productive. Let's go back to AI a little bit. The term AI agent is being used everywhere. And it's amazing how many terms the general public picks up, but doesn't really understand it, right? In practical, everyday business language, what is an AI agent, and how is it different from simply asking ChatGPT to complete a task?
Yeah, I think that's the main question people have. ChatGPT has access to, it's an LLM, a large language model, which is basically the average of everything it's read, right? So you typically get average responses, but it's still genius and everything. And then you can say, well, no, I don't want the average. I want an expert opinion or whatever. And you can kind of massage it. But every time you start a new thread, every month updates come out, and it gets a little bit better at memory, but it's pretty limited. When you move to an AI agent, what you're doing is you're saying, this is going to be the brain but it's an AI agent harness. So I'm now going to ask ChatGTP what to do. And rather than it just living inside of this little, my app, it's now on my computer and can do actual work. So I'm going to ask it to do something, and now it has access to my tools. So it could log onto my Facebook, into my Meta account. It could run my ads. It could post on Instagram and LinkedIn and schedule podcasts for me, do literally all of my tools. You can now give an agent your tools. Then you can give it skills or different workflows. And then you can also set up repeating loops. So rather than me prompting ChatGPT to do something, it comes back and I say, nope, I don't like that. You should have thought harder. I could teach. That's how I always want it. I always want you, when I ask you to go through these different skill sets anytime you respond. So it's called an agent harness. But like when I'm talking to my AI, before it can respond, it has 3 rules. 1, you don't have any local memory, just because I do everything in the cloud because it's through the whole team. 2, when you start, you have to use what I call the routing skill, or the planning skill. And it says, before you start, what project are we going to be working in? So it looks inside of all of my Notion database, just a project manager, and it says, which projects are related to this? And then what memory do I need? And then it says, what rules do I need to follow? What approval gates do I need? So if this is an email, it needs certain formatting, but it also needs different approval gates depending on who it's going to. Which skills am I going to use? And it has a registry that it reads of 407 skills, I think is how many it has now. And it's intelligent. You can't load all 400 skills every time, or else that's going to cost a lot of money and your usage is going to be gone. So it's just intelligently grabbing the information exactly when you need it, at the exact right time. And then that's the difference. So I can ask my AI to do something like go build me a website, and it'll build me a website with one prompt, and I don't have to go back and forth because it uses my website builder skill, which already teaches it how to build a high quality website. And then the planning or the routing skill forces it to always think through and do all of the work. The other thing you get from that is ChatGPT will do the work itself, where when you're talking to an agent, it could spin up sub-agents with separate memory. So this agent is saying, what does the human want? Here's the plan. How am I going to measure if it's success or not? So it's turning it into an actual rubric or an evaluation. And then it spawns the sub-agent, says, sub-agent, you're going to do the work. And then the sub-agent is going to come back and say, I'm done. And if it doesn't meet those deterministic criteria, go back and do it again. Go back and do it, which we're doing ourselves with ChatGPT, but you could program those over and over. And then the more you do that, the more autonomous it gets. So like I'm at the point that it has, like every day I'm like first principles thinking, why aren't we fully autonomous? And then it goes through my first principles skill, and it's like, are the models smart enough to run this? Yes, they are, right? And I have 3 different models, and they all audit each other because I have Grok, their highest level, which is XAI's, and then I have Claude's, their highest, which is Fable 5, and then I have Codex 5.6 Soul. So I have the 3 smartest models. It's like they can run the company. They have all of the tools, all of the skills, all of the meetings. I've recorded everything. I mean, I've worn this around my neck for over a year. Aside from recording every single meeting on my computer for the last 4 years, like every conversation has now been recorded. So it has all of the information, and then it's just first principles thinking, where are we at? How do we get full autonomous? Because if you set up that agentic loop right, it's just, what would Bennett do here? And how does it know what Bennett will do? Well, I prompted it 4,000 times in the last 2.5 months alone. So like today I have it running as we speak. It's going back the last, I forgot what time period, but looking at every single day and then redoing what were all the frustrations here? How can we learn back? So you can always like go back and say, okay, what did Bennett do to correct the system compared to that prompt? And then it's setting up a profile, decision-making profile, and on how I prompt the AI given where it's breaking. So now it can't ask me questions until it's already ensured that it's checked that database of 4,000 previous inquiries and that I haven't already answered that. And it's cool to see because it's like, before I get started, I need to ask you blah, blah, blah. And then it says, stop hook fires. And then it turns red and it says, I cannot ask Bennett questions until blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't ask me the question. And then it comes back and I'm like, sweet.
That's amazing. That's so many possibilities with that. And we're just scratching the surface. 5 years ago, there was no AI that we knew of, right?
6 months ago.
Right. Well, since we started talking, there's a new technology, a new skill that it has. Walk us through one specific workflow that an owner might currently handle manually.
Yeah, I would say the easiest one is email. It's probably the kind of the most overrated one too. And this is why it's like, well, I don't want it to do my email because I need to do my email. No, this AI sounds human. They're so good. It's like, but what does human mean? Because my human is different than your human.
Sure.
So here's how you do it. You download any AI you want and you tap connect to email. And you'll connect it. It'll have a native integration, one click. It's super easy. Then say, read the last 5,000 emails or 5 years or 1,000, whatever you want to tell it. I would say 2,000, whatever. Read the last 2,000 emails and build a decision profile for me on how I make decisions and how I communicate and how I respond. Make sure that you're paying attention to the differences when I communicate with a family member versus a friend versus a colleague versus a coworker, how long I take to respond, all of that. Look what other top users are doing to build these types of decision-making skills. Again, this is like me prompting the AI out loud, Look what other people are doing and bring in all of that. The goal here, you always want to give it a goal if you can. The goal here is that after you read all of my emails, you can replicate me exactly. And then go get to work. And then it'll go get to work. And it'll go 5 minutes, you're done. And you say, cool, now read all of my unread emails and show me what I would respond in my tonality. And then it will.
Oh, so
you say, cool.
It's an audition, basically.
It's the, yeah, and then you verify it, right? But it's going to be 95% great right out of the box. And then you can make a few different adjustments if you want. But that, like, how many times do you check your email a day? I never check mine. Like, I have it for months because it's just Claude checks it once an hour. And it filters it. Anything that's spam, it unsubscribes me for. Anything that I maybe need to see, but I don't need to respond to, it marks it as FYI and just notates it for me. It also saves it to its memory. Anything that needs responded to and action done, it can do it itself using the Bennett decision skill and all of my tools. And then anything that it has a question for me, it just asks me. And it has those approval gates. Like if it's a customer, it always has to ask me right now because I just don't have the trust with it yet. I always want to approve that final email, if so, you start with lower permissions, and as you gain trust, you give it more and more permissions. But that's a very easy one. When I'm telling you the whole business can be done in AI, like it's the entire business can be done in AI. So we have like a brand that, again, back to marketing. The best way to market your product is to hire somebody else to talk about your product. So Mike's podcast is great versus like my podcast is great, right?
Yeah.
And there's a huge industry. It's called UGC, user generated content. Last year, the number one ad that I had, because I started this in May of 2025, was an AI avatar saying, hey, check out glow tanning. This is all the benefits. And it was just an AI avatar reading my scripts, 30-year-old white woman that was the perfect demographic for what I was selling. And that sold $40 million worth of glow tanning franchises. And it was a AI avatar that nobody had any idea was even a real person. So you can start making AI avatars of something else, or download an app called HeyGen, HeyGen, on your phone, pay $20, take a picture of yourself, or if you want to go extra fancy, record yourself for 2 minutes, and then you can make an AI clone of yourself. Your voice, your image, I would say 90% of people won't be able to tell the difference. And then if you want to fine tune it, you 1,000% can fine tune it, that 100 out of 100 people would never be able to tell the difference. Like AI is there, that it is indistinguishable from reality if done correctly, and you can do that. Then it's like, well, why do I want an AI clone? Well, should you be posting on social media every day for your business? Yes. Do you? No, because you don't have time. So like right now I have my AI clone. I have 2 running. And one is running 100 days to pick your perfect franchise and 100 days to automate your business with AI. And every single day, my clone goes on there, talks for 30 to 60 seconds and says, hey, this is the day's tips and tricks. And if you want to learn the first 5 steps, comment 5 steps, and I'm going to send you the PDF. So now I have these like 100-day series of education going, and I spend 0 time. It planned out the scripts, wrote the scripts, recorded the videos, posted it, did the hashtags, made the comments, responds to comments, literally doing everything. And now I could be an education expert across multiple fields, posting every single day, and it takes 0 of my time. And then same thing with YouTube. And I'm starting to do 2 YouTube videos a week, longer form, like 10 to 20 minutes with an AI clone on, hey, how to automate your business with AI, or whatever I want to be seen as the education expert as. That's another very useful one that's not that hard to set up.
You mentioned that, there's AI can run your business, and I believe that's accurate. Which customer or employee interactions, like HR stuff, for example, should never be fully handled over to AI? Or is there any other part of the business that really needs Bennett to at least approve it before it's executed?
I would say everything at the beginning, but
Yeah.
nothing theoretically. Because even you think, like I was listening to something on a company got rid of over 1,000 of their appointment or their call center, something to do with man, I forgot what it was, but it was a hard conversation to have. Something like you're calling people that were in debt, or like debt collections or IRS, something like that. They trained bots to be like empathy bots, right? Like very empathetic, take longer time to respond, ask more questions, be willing to stay. A bot will stay on the phone with somebody complaining for as long as they want to complain. And it'll say, I'm so sorry, that's such a hard time, right? Where a human, after doing those calls every day, they just get sick of it. The bot will never lose the empathy that you program to it. It'll never lose the HR ability that you program into it, but you have to program into it. If you just ask it to do it, it's not going to do it. So I'd say everything is check and verify for the first and second time. And then, but eventually there is nothing that I'm thinking, maybe you could challenge that and give me a thought, but I'm like, no, there's nothing that I wouldn't give the AI access to.
That's great. For the small business owner who feels overwhelmed by AI, what would a realistic first 30 days look like if they decided to embrace either your services, relative to franchise stuff, or Aveda, or some other agent?
I would say this is what I would do if I was getting started today. Pick a platform between these three: Grok, which is XAI, Codex, or Claude. Claude is going to be the best one, most expensive. Codex is kind of in the middle, and then Grok's the cheapest, probably the lowest performing, but way cheaper, way faster, and only like 5% less performing. But once you have your model, you just want to talk to it. You want to treat it like you are my assistant. So now I'm going to talk to it in the thread, and day one, what can you help me out with? But they're so smart that you don't have to do that. As soon as you download the desktop app, because I just did this for my sister, it says, get started with the setup. Summarize my emails. And I said, okay, I clicked it. I clicked summarize my emails, and it says, I don't have access to your emails. Click here to give me access. And I clicked here. And then also to have the emails. And then I gave it that prompt. Go look at the last 2,000 emails. And it immediately did it in like 5 minutes. It produced these approval cards is what it called it. There's 23 unread emails, and it brought up on my screen. It said, this is the email that I'm responding to. And I had 3 selections. So it already typed in my response in my sister's voice or whatever, which was, however long. And if I wanted it shorter, I could click on the shorter tab and it just made it shorter. Or if I wanted it warmer, I could type in the warmer tab. So now I could go through all 23 emails and just click shorter, warmer, or approve. And we did all 23 in a matter of a few minutes. This was a few minutes of us downloading the desktop app because it was just the first thing that prompted. The second thing it prompted us to do was read my Google Drive and organize my next wedding planning event or something like that. Clicked it. I don't have access to your Google Drive. Click here to give me access. One click, boom. And then it makes like this beautiful design and everything. So I would say just get started on, like, if you could just do 15 or 30 minutes a day on just like, I want to figure out one little thing, try it. Now, Claude came out with something yesterday that's called Screen Record, which is so cool. It's like, download the desktop app, hit Screen Record, and just work. And then at the end of it, Claude will copy it and turn it into a skill and do it for you next time. The only caveat there is, obviously, if you're working inside of a browser, it needs a browser skill, right? Mm-hmm. But that's important to bring up. These AIs, all of those have their own browsers. They all have their own mouses. They all have their own everything. All of them can read my text messages on my iMessages. When I have a phone call on my iPhone, like, you can hit record and it transcribes it to your iMessage or your Apple Notes. It pulls everything from there. Like, it really can have access to any and everything. It was hard to set it up 4 months ago. It's a lot easier to set it up today. You could just ask it and it'll walk you through it. But if you spent 15 to 30 minutes a day for the next 30 days, on weekdays, you're going to be in the top 1000% of people using AI. Like people just aren't doing it. And all you have to do is just start talking to it. And then you understand how they think and how to prompt it. And that, I think, is the skill to have. Would you rather learn how to manage a human or manage an AI? Which one is going to provide you more economic value, right? Because the human, I can only manage so many humans at a time. Where the AI, I could, as soon as I create that AI marketing agent, guess who I could sell that to? This AI marketing agent also speaks Mandarin, and it also speaks Hindu, and it also speaks every language in the world. So it can go apply for jobs in every language of the world 24/7 if I wanted to do that. And I think it will be there in just a few months. I think right now it takes a little bit, like I don't want to tackle that. That's too hard. But like, why not in 6 months? Because it's do the exact same thing that I'm doing here, but go look at the culture shifts and then the language and then go try it with another country. And at the end of every day, monitor your success, run yourself through a self-learning loop, score yourself, make all of the like permanent changes that would have gotten you to 100 the next day. And then you just do that every day. And every day it's getting compoundingly smarter. And you're like, cool. Every day my SOP that it follows gets smarter. And then every month, the entire brain that runs the SOP gets smarter. So you have this double compounding effect, if that makes sense. Every time it touches your skills or your workflows, it should be self-grading and then self-auditing and self-learning so you don't make the same mistakes. And then it's like, cool, we just made another model that's 16% better. And you're like, what? My entire company just got 16% smarter after it already got 10% smarter last month and 10% smarter than the month before. So the compounding effect is as real as it gets.
Wow. What does the K stand for in franchise KI?
Knowledge and intelligence. So the knowledge and intelligence being the key to franchising. I mean, my experience with business, kind of with any business, but like with Dirty Dough, I bought Dirty Dough because I went to high school with the dude and he posted on Facebook.
There you go.
It wasn't because I had any knowledge or intelligence.
Right.
And if you look at most people's first businesses, it has nothing to do with knowledge or intelligence. It has to do with just opportunity. And I looked at 5 businesses and then I picked one, but I didn't objectively look at them. So that's what I was going off of is knowledge and intelligence are the key to franchising. And the brands that I represent, objectively, they all have item 19s, meaning they actually disclose their financials. And you can see how much money they're making, and they have a 3-year payback, and they have 0 closures or maybe 1 closure depending on the brand. But I choose those objective markers because of that.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, we're about out of time, but I'm going to ask you a question I've already asked you. I asked you this a little over a year ago, and I asked every guest this. And the question I asked you then was how did you define success earlier in your career, and how do you define it now? And just as a little bit of a flashback, here was your answer, and we'll see how it compares. How did you define success before you started your entrepreneurial journey, and how do you define it today?
Yeah, before I think it's monetary. Like, was I a millionaire or was I not a millionaire? You know, how much money am I making per month? How much investments do I have? It was strictly material. But again, take a deeper look. Why did I want all those things? Well, I wanted it because I wanted joy and fulfillment. Joy rather than happiness, because you can't be happy all the time, but generally speaking, have a joyful life. But you can't just be happy every day. You also have to be happy of your life, right? Or proud of your life or fulfilled. So joy and fulfillment. I think that's the way to measure success for me. And every time I have to have a business decision, that's what I'm trying to measure it against. Which of these 2 decisions is going to bring me more joy and fulfillment? And
all right,
that's been
I totally remember that
easier
phase
of
of
a
my
guide
life as well.
to make better decisions.
I love because now the answer is very different. That the first company, no mission statement. Second company, I was like, okay, well, I got my money. I wanted the money, but I didn't get the fulfillment. Second company, you kind of heard the mission statement. I was like, no, I want the joy and fulfillment. And I got a lot of joy and fulfillment, but I got the money, but I didn't get the tranquility, I guess, the peace of mind, the freedom from constant thought. And that's what I'm focused on right now. Freedom from constant thought. Kind of what I was explaining earlier. If there's any superpower, like overflying or over being invisible, if I could control what I focus on and I could control how I feel at any time, what's more important than that? And again, I think that's narrowing down the problem. It's like, this is the only thing that that really matters above everything, is just how do I feel? What is my neurochemistry? So that's success to me.
I love it. Well, maybe in the next year or two, we'll talk again. You'll be my benchmark for success evolution. Well, for my audience, if you're watching this on YouTube, right down here below me, see more. Click that and you'll see the links to Franchise KI and Aveda, and that way you can get a hold of Maxwell through that company. You'll probably end up hearing from Virtual Maxwell, but Virtual Maxwell is exactly Maxwell. So you won't even know the difference. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, then go to your podcast app, look at the show notes, and the information will be there as well. Bennett, thanks for reaching out and wanting to come back and talk about the, Bennett Maxwell 3.0 or 4.0, whatever number you're at right now.
Whatever phase I'm at, yeah.
I love watching the progression. And
I appreciate it.
What you said a little earlier about, the other Bennett Maxwell that we just showed, started cookie dough because he had a buddy on Facebook, right? And it wasn't so intentional. It wasn't something that you were building for years in your head and finally executed. The name of the show is The Reluctant Entrepreneur for a reason, because I had no desire to start a business. I just created this product, and the employer that I created it, I created it while I was working for an employer in the same space, but I created it kind of privately, and I thought, I'm just going to give it to this employer, and they didn't want it. They were not interested in it. I wasn't even trying to sell it at that point. I just wanted to see them build it, and I'll sell it. And so I just reluctantly said, okay, well, no one else will do it. I guess I'll just do it myself. So those things happen. But imagine the power if you actually can manifest something, intentional that you've been dreaming about all these years, rather than, I feel like a lot of my journey has been like a pinball in a pinball machine, just bouncing off the bumpers, Now, I think those bumpers were intentional. I think that looking back, they all connected to something that, to lead me to where I am today, but they're very random at the time. And so it's just an interesting journey. And I think you are now a little bit more in control of your journey rather than, looking at Facebook friends.
Little less, lots of bumps. Less bumps every year, though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it takes a lot longer to train Maxwell and Mike than it does to train an AI agent. So fortunately, we can speed up time now with this new technology. Well, Bennett, thanks a lot for being my guest and coming back again on the second sentence that was imposed on you. I really appreciate, and it's great to see you again, and continued success.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, here's some final thoughts. One of the most important points from today's conversation is that growth doesn't necessarily create weakness in a business. More often, it exposes weaknesses that were already there. When a company is small, the founder can personally answer every question, solve every problem, and follow up on every opportunity. That can feel efficient, but it isn't a system. It's dependence disguised as dedication. Artificial intelligence won't rescue a confused process, repair a weak business model, or replace sound judgment. In fact, automating a poorly designed process may simply allow the company to make the same mistakes faster and on a much larger scale. But when the process is understood, the responsibilities are clear, and appropriate safeguards are in place, AI can remove repetitive work that consumes an owner's time without requiring their unique expertise or creativity. Bennett's journey from Dirty Dough to Franchise KI is also a reminder that the lessons from one business often become the foundation for the next. The mistakes, bottlenecks, and growing pains aren't wasted when we're willing to examine them honestly and use them to build something better. Now, that's a wrap. Thanks for being part of our Reluctant Entrepreneur family. We've been very busy recording future episodes with amazing guests, so be sure to subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop. If you're an entrepreneur or know someone who would make a great guest, we'd love to hear from you. Visit reluctantentrepreneur.podcast.com, where you can apply or recommend a guest or just learn more about the show. And don't forget to check out my newest series, Reluctant Lessons When Businesses Go Wrong. On this series, we dig into high-profile business failures and the story behind it all. We've already profiled several companies with many, many more on the way. As it turns out, there's no shortage. Check out Reluctant Lessons right here on this channel. And if you're interested in my book, The Reluctant Entrepreneur, Anatomy of a Business Startup from Uncertainty to Unstoppable, it's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon and as an audiobook on both Audible and Amazon. And finally, to everyone listening or watching, if you find yourself stepping into entrepreneurship, whether that's by choice or circumstance, remember this: sometimes the path we never planned becomes the journey we were meant to take. That's me. I'm out of time. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate all of you, and I'll see you again soon.